Jack Fanneron. I'm the president of the BP Group in New York. Um, the BP Group is a large service and mechanical contractor in New York City. We're a union contractor. We have five separate companies. We have BP Mechanical, which does a lot of our plan and spec and building work. We have BP Service, which has a very large recurring service base. We have a special projects group team who works with client directs. We have a controls group, and we have an installation group and a large chiller group. Um, and we push about probably 100 to 110 million a year in revenue uh, with BP Group, with all the companies combined. We're an ESOP owned company. We became ESOP from the founders, who were great. They went through a lot of succession planning, and they decided to sell the company to the employees. So we're ESOP owned as of December of 2016. A really great, really cool, and it works very well. It keeps us all engaged, which is awesome. Um, and that's basically a brief description of who the BP Group is.
Great. Thank you so much, Jack. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. Why don't you tell us why you decided to go with the Astea Alliance platform for your field service management needs?
All right. Well, before we even started choosing Astea, I guess it was about a 4 month process. We engaged a firm called ATX, a consulting firm that we've been working with a lot since about 2008 with our growth. And we did a lot of vetting. We vetted about 12 different contracts. We first started off creating an RFI. We sent it out to about 12 different software firms, including our incumbent. We vetted that down to about five. We invited them in for proof of content and demos, et cetera, that they had to do, and then we came down to basically two that we ended up doing contract reviews on. So it was a long process, and we basically came down and chose Astea because of its transparency and their mobile solution and I just the friendliness of the product, the GUI system, just the friendliness of the GUI system. But basically, our biggest goal was engagement of the customer and creating a transparency, not just between the client, but also for our techs and our employees in the office. We just want information to be readily available in real time. We had a very robust system prior to moving over to Astea, but it created a massive data garage. And that caused us to take a lot of time in extrapolating information, putting it together in a format to present it, whether it was internally based for our staff or whether it was externally based for our clients. And that we found Astea was just, we were able to create the reports with Astea, able to use the client portal through Astea so the client could see what they want to see in real time. And the dangerous word of accountability, we want to hold ourselves accountable to the client, and we also want to hold the client accountable to us. And that's all part of a customer engagement. It's a two-way street. It's not just a one-way street in service. So we chose Astea. We love the analytics of Astea. We love the Watson-type internet stuff of Astea. They really understand the service business, not just the HVAC business, but service on a whole. And a lot of out-of-the-box ideas that we looked at really helped us to reinvent how we present service to our customer, to the end user. Um, it was really important as relates to, our senior management team. They're not in the day to day, so they rely on dashboards. And we created external to our old system a dashboard that integrated so they could see things that were happening, but it wasn't really in real time. Now they can go in, they don't got to yell out of their office, can you get me this call report? How many open calls, or what's going on with this? They can literally bring it up in real time, see what's happening, and address the situation directly without really interrupting the workflow of anybody else. And as you get larger, you need to control that workflow. So, Astea won for us, and we're really happy with the decision.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jack. When you and I were talking previously, you had mentioned how there were two ways you were going to be sharing all of the analytics and business intelligence reporting that you get, and how you're going to be conveying that information to your customers, like you were mentioning. And I know you said one of those ways was done directly in the field through your techs, and then the other way was going to be using the Alliance customer portal. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the biggest problem I think we have with the new technology of Astea and XOi is, not just educating the client, but educating our staff. When you tell somebody you have this stuff available to them, it's like, oh, really cool, and how many people actually end up utilizing it. we need and want them to utilize and become engaged. So the first process is actually taking it to the field, taking it to the technicians and training them. So when they're actually with the client, they're going to be able to show the client what's going on, what data is available to them, show the client how they're using that data, and at the same time show the client how they can access that. We also have a lot of customer service reps, and they're out in the field and they have to meet with clients. You know, we'd like to see every client, you know, at least on a quarterly basis with a customer service rep, and they too will be then taking the client uh, through how the client can access the system, how the client can see things in real time, how the client can use their mobile device if they're on vacation in Florida, or, you know, like the picture here shows, most people were probably in Florida, and this poor guy was on a rooftop in Manhattan freezing with XOi eyeglasses on there. Um, and it's going to be through repetition is the only way we're going to really get that across. But it's going to also be what differentiates us from everybody else. We want our client to feel that we're managing their asset, and it is their asset, and we want to reduce the downtime as best as possible, and we want them being involved in that process and partnered in that process. And to us, Astea is going to really, along with XOI, it's going to make what we do tangible. HVAC is not really tangible anymore. I mean, no one really sees the units. They just expect to walk into a nice, comfortable environment. They have no idea the amount of energy it's taken to create that environment and why it's costing so much and what the per kW cost is. With Astea, we're able to take that information and present it to the client in such a way that it gives the client the ability to make competent decisions and not be, I guess you could say, uh, in the hands of a contractor and do what the contractor wants them to do versus what is the right thing to do.
Right, that makes perfect sense. Thank you so much for that. Now, switching gears, and I know they're related, but why would you say you all decided to go with XOI for their visual intelligence platform?
Well, I guess you could say with XOI, we got involved early in the early stages of XOI. I was, God's truth, I was very ignorant. I was just really worried about the skill gap, and I met Aaron, and you know, he really was engaged, but also just he really was engaged as relates to this industry. So I started listening to what he had to say, and I've been looking at this for a while. And sorry about that, my daughter just called. Sorry, but what we ended up doing was he understood what we were talking about, and I wasn't looking at this massive solution that was going to cost a bazillion dollars. I really wanted to have guys in the office who can give my field staff direction. We have a very good education program for our technicians here. They all go through the apprenticeship program, but you can't, you know, an apprentice doesn't come out as a journeyman. That takes experience, that takes wisdom, it takes years of knowledge, and basically that's the way I approached Aaron. So we went at it from a skills gap point of view, and we really didn't look at many other products. We were very grateful for Lee Corporation. We sent a bunch of guys down to Nashville to visit Aaron's offices and to visit Lee, which is, you know, really, I respect Lee. I've known them for quite some time. We've had a lot of discussions amongst ourselves. The only negative thing was sending the guys down to Nashville because they never recovered. It took about a week for them to recover once they got back. External of that, they were thrilled with it. We've had our hills and valleys. When we first started introducing it, we rolled it out in the summertime. And when I say hills and valleys, clients were getting used to it, but our consistency at BP wasn't where we needed it to be. You know, a client would get proposals and say, look, Jack, you know, can you tell me on this proposal? You just send me the link like you did on this so I could see what's going on. And I'd be like, oh, gee whiz, you know, that guy really didn't do it. And that was something new to me, but a light bulb went off in my head with the XOI. It wasn't just from a skill gap that these guys were calling in and getting support. You know, in Manhattan, we have massive congestion. To go from the east side of Manhattan to the west side could take a guy a half hour. Since 9/11, God bless, just trying to get into a security and through the building takes another hour. You know, my foreman and our engineers can talk to the tech on site much quicker than actually physically having to go to the job site. So that was important to me. But what I really found later on, this is what my ignorance came in, was from a sales point of view, our service contract salespeople fell in love with it. They were showing videos to the clients. My proposal, my upselling team, they were attaching the proposals. And Aaron had told me this, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on downtime and increasing labor productivity and filling that skill gap. And I looked at this client, I'll never forget. I'm like, you know, I'm sorry, but it wasn't really my focus. And we refocused on that. And it's really brought a lot of good for us. So we're very excited about the partnership between XOI and between between Astea. I'll give you one example. We'll use XOi when we commission a system. So Michael Brathwaite's our vice president of air conditioning, and one of his biggest clients is BP Mechanical, and they'll do startups, and he has a team of guys who do startups, and they'll tape their startup. So we got a service call one time. We went back down, and the guy had actually taped his startup. He showed the VFD working on the unit and controlling the unit, et cetera. And the unit was down because of the VFD failure. When the same technician went back, he took another video and was able to show that there was, this is New York, but somebody didn't do something nice, and they clipped the wires to the VFD to the unit. So that was a situation where we actually had proof that the startup was completed. It was completed properly. We showed them how the VFD startup went and how it was running. And now we go back almost a week later, and they had some malfeasance occur, and someone clipped the wires, whether they did it by accident or intentional, like who's to say. But to have that video and be able to show that to the general contractor and to the client, was really important, from that perspective too. So there's so many different ways you're going to find that having that experiential impact of AR, augmented reality, is a further way to engage the client. And I think it's just going to be what we're going to be doing in the future. I mean, even if a guy works on my boiler, which failed at my house, I want proof. I wish the guy had a thing so he could just show me what was going on with my boiler, other than the fact that the basement was flooded. I just thought the relief valve went and the guy was trying to sell me a new boiler. I would have loved him to have that video. So it was very good for us. I'm sorry for going on, but it's a very competent technology.
No, not at all. That's great. Thank you. And I feel the same way. I had someone fix my washer recently, and I wasn't there, and I would have loved to see what he actually did. So I completely understand what you're talking about. Just to wrap it up, I have one more question. Jack, when you and I spoke before, I asked you if your competitors were offering any type of capabilities like this that give you that kind of customer transparency and technician efficiency. And you said that you were the first amongst your competitors to offer something like this. Talk to me a little bit about that.
We were the first, but I be honest with you, it does differentiate us. But I hope not to be the last, because my goal is that the whole industry becomes this, takes this route. We got to become, we have to become a more professional industry, and we have to be more accountable to our clients. And we got to, that's the way I think BP differentiates itself from everybody else. And for us, service is all about communication, and communication requires engagement, and engagement requires trust. And if you look at it, in the old days, trust was just a personality. It was Jack knowing the client, or Mike Brathwaite, or Lisa Caruso, or my key people at BP knowing the client, and they trusted them, what they told, etc. Nowadays, with all the technologies, it's not just, A is the personality. That's one piece of trust. The second piece of trust is people want data now. They want to see the math. They want to see you validate what you've done, and that's where Astea is coming in. And then the next part, C, is they want to be able to have an experiential. They want to visibly see it. They want to validate it that way, and then you got to make it, when they see a video and they can actually understand what went wrong, you've now really put three pieces together in the word trust, and now you have true engagement with a client, and with true engagement comes true communication, and now you have service. You have a client that's going to see past just numbers. So to me, people who take this track will retain their clients longer, the trust will be much stronger, the bond will be much stronger, and in this world going forward with everybody with the technology and quicker, cheaper, faster, whatever, I think this is where we have to be. And actually, it's been very helpful to us. We've really modernized everything, right, from our inventory systems to the augmented reality, the Internet of Things, and Astea are taking us really where we need to be today, not 5 years from now. And 5 years from now, who knows what's going to go on? But I'm very happy with the partnership.
Awesome. Jack, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining. And like I said, I think the audience really appreciates hearing it from you directly, not just from XOi and Astea. They want to hear from someone who's going to be using it, and the drivers for why you chose it, and the expected benefits. And I think that makes it more powerful. So thank you so much again. And please hang on the line, because we're going to have a lot of questions. So with that, I will open it for Q&A, and some people are really eager